Zangpo.
Kamdimo.
Chajalo.
Namaste.
Hello and welcome to the Sikkim podcast brought to you by Summit Times. I'm Chiring Eden.
I'm Pema Wangchuk.
And
today we don't have Uttam because he's on another assignment for the for the newspaper. So the two of us here today.
Yeah, so today we'll start with the discussing roads or road blockades or blockages or blocks.
Yes, caused by slides. Yeah.
Yeah, so landslides have along the highway, especially we're talking about the highway, national highway, blocked at 32. There were, continuous landslides.
Out of Gangtok, yes.
But this mile at Siti Jhora and some other places also.
Yes, Kalijora has been suffering slides quite often.
So what this has done is for the past 3 days now, we don't have any Sikkim milk supplies has been disrupted.
Yeah.
And even today we checked, the supplies have not come.
Yeah, and even supply from North Sikkim,
Yeah,
the
the
milk packaged milk that used to come from North Sikkim is also down.
So people are having problem. Those who used to consume Sikkim milk, they are
Which is a huge
huge,
proportion of
yeah.
the Gangtok population, right?
Villages, before people would get thika ka milk
Yeah.
and all that, a lot of people. Now
Yeah.
also there are fewer dairy farmers, I guess, who will deliver milk like that.
Yes.
And all of it, I think most of them supply to Sikkim milk.
Sikkim milk itself, yes.
So very few people who get thika ka milk.
I think some of the older families,
Yeah.
but Gangtok has a huge floating population now,
I
isn't
know.
it? Of what we call migrants, people living in rented accommodation. So theka becomes a problem for them unless you're a family.
We
There are lots
get
of
thika ka,
students.
thankfully.
Yeah, lucky.
So, and apart from milk, it's vegetables also that have vegetable supplies have also been affected. And our staff member Paru just informed us that tomatoes were 40 rupees per kg, and now it's become 80 rupees
40
per kg.
or 80?
First she said 60, and then she said 40. I don't
Wow.
know, but anyway, so it's
No, because that's something that I don't understand.
Mm.
If supplies have, I understand demand and supply and the economics of demand and supply, but the tomatoes they're selling right now for 100 rupees, they had bought at a wholesale price of when they were still selling it at 40 rupees, right? So this is opportunistic profiteering.
Yes, could be.
It is not as if, why would the prices go up?
No, they maybe.
The trucks cannot take a detour. The trucks cannot come by a longer way.
Why?
They cannot climb that Pankhabadi and those Peshok climbs, right? So they have to wait for the landslides to clear to get through. So I can understand why prices should spike up like that, except the fact that someone it's like what happened with the organic Sikkim experiment, right?
Yeah.
In the markets. Just because the supply is low, it's like selling tomatoes in black. So as it works for the rest of the vegetables. So I think that's something that but we are digressing here. But that is something that cannot be ignored. I think Sikkim still does not have a official system in place which checks against such
Price
usury.
rise.
Yeah.
Also, the roads, it's the road landslides, they are being constantly cleared, and then again a new
One
slip
collapses,
happens,
yeah.
and then again. So people are not aware of what the road status is. I see a lot of people are asking online what the road status is, and then people who have just crossed that area or who are stuck there, they will inform, reply saying that okay, this is the status. So maybe helpline for roads,
Yes.
like you were saying,
Yes.
where people could just call up and ask.
Or if people have problems making phone calls, because I think people have problems making calls anymore from their phones, they want to just type on it. A Facebook page, something like the Disaster Management Authority or whatever it is that they call themselves, they just don't have to be there when a slide collapses on a house, right? Connectivity is something that they should be looking out for. So right now, the existing social media platforms in Sikkim, like Voice of Sikkim, Sikkim Chronicle, or whatever other platforms there are, they're doing a decent job of providing updates on the road status. But We need real-time, reliable, and official communications on this. And that is something, because a section of your highway also goes through West Bengal, that is something that is best coordinated by the state authorities. So something like the Disaster Management Authority should have a dedicated Facebook page on the road status, whether it is safe to travel or not, whether all the slides are open or not. So that page, when you go, you don't have to scroll through 100 different news items. You just get the road update
The latest.
of NH10 and all the state roads, because and that they should be doing. No one should be telling them to do that.
I mean, we have not checked the social media. I haven't. I'm just giving them this. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Benefit of doubt.
Okay, that they might actually be doing.
Might.
Oh yeah, that's possible.
Because the police used to.
No, Roads and Bridges Department, for instance, has a website, right, on which they give the status of roads every evening or whatever. I'm talking about because people need to travel and because people need to make plans for these things. There should be a real-time, dedicated page or whatever other media they are comfortable with, which provides us with this update. I mean, like,
Yes.
I think it's important. It just makes traveling safer, and of course, we can then go on to whether there's any coordination between the Met authorities and the disaster management guys, or if it's raining too much, what other, like, we can just go on and on. But I think a dedicated page or helpline or a number I could message and just get a message back with an update on the road status at that particular moment. I think that's required in Sikkim now.
Yeah,
I think that's very required.
I think helpline, but like you said, maybe people would not prefer to call. But
Helpline would be wonderful also. I can just call up and say, "You just ask ki ye road khula hai ki
because
nahi?"
people know. I think even if they see an update, suppose there was a page like that, and they did put, they will still have this doubt. No,
Yeah.
that was like 5 minutes ago. Maybe things have changed.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. And also, since we're discussing the price rise, also some agency has to come on record and tell the people what's up with supplies. Like when can they expect the milk supplies to come in, and whether a landslide is enough excuse for milk supplies to not get in. And the vegetable prices. I mean, there must be sellers unions or associations or organizations at Lal Bazaar which need to put out a statement explaining things. There should be the DC's office, I think, looks into these things about prices and all that stuff. I think that's important.
Yes.
That's important.
Nowhere else can they, I
Get away
think,
with.
just randomly charge whatever price comes to
Yeah.
their mind. Like,
No, this
kachra ho jayega.
usually this profiteering to hota hai. I mean, if there are like now there are floods all over India, soon we'll be told that onion supplies are stuck in the flood, so you got to buy onions at prices that make you cry. Yeah.
All right. So, moving on, let's talk about the recent announcement by the Chief Minister
Yeah.
that the CM himself and his ministers will now have to treat any kind of medical treatment at STNM and not
Yeah.
on state expenses.
Yes.
They will be taken care of at STNM and will not be directly treated outside Sikkim. That's what I understand, right?
Yes.
But
VIPs, I mean, his announcement was that all these VIPs who were earlier bypassing STNM completely and going straight away, getting their cases referred straight away to Delhi, will now perforce be if they want to get treated on state expense, need to go to STNM. And then if they got to be referred, not recommended. If they've got to be referred out, they'll be referred out and get treatment wherever they get. Yeah, which is an interesting announcement to attract applause at a public speech. But who will be enforcing these regulations? The same people who've been abusing it all this while. Right? So all that means is maybe it'll take you 1 hour more before you get referred out. Right? That formality of going to STNM and telling your favorite doctor, okay, please refer my case outside. I mean, as if they can refuse. But if this is suggestive of some real interest of prioritizing what the doctors and specialists at STNM want, by way of facilities
Excuse me. Excuse me.
at the new hospital, then it's wonderful. Because I think in all this planning of this great fancy new hospital complex and the hiring of people, which of course I have questions about. Anyways, keeping that aside, the one group that has not been taken into confidence in the planning, I think, are the doctors.
Yes.
I think doctors have not been asked how the, and this I think we've discussed in the past as well, not in the podcast maybe, but among ourselves, about how when the ICU is being designed, you don't take the doctor into confidence. It's some engineer who decides what an ICU should look like, and it's a mess.
No, they have been taken, from what I know, they have been taken into confidence, as in they have been consulted, but then...
No one listened to them.
No one listened. But then the usual thing about engineers being changed after every few years, because this was such a long drawn out project.
Yeah.
So the
Oh.
doctor, I've heard.
Yes.
Okay, I can't how do you say?
Yeah, it's not officially
It's
confirmed.
not an official
Verified.
state, but I probably true.
Mhm.
Okay, so a doctor is consulted and about the design and everything. So an engineer comes and says, okay, okay, this is how we'll do it. Then after 2 or 3 years, that engineer is transferred somewhere else, and then another engineer comes who has not been updated properly about the design requirements, and then again he's doing something else. Again, the same doctor is again consulted. He says, I had already told this पहले ही बोला था, this is not how it was supposed to be. There was some, and then again that engineer. So this goes on, and this is what I have heard is led to problems in the design, where the doctors have been even the doctors who were consulted were so frustrated by the end of it, because how many times will you
Yes.
tell, right?
So
that then they don't seem to get it right.
I know. I mean, that explains it. I mean, that explains what has happened by way of civil engineering, although that has always been Sikkim's limitation. But that does not excuse it. I mean, if a doctor has been consulted, I mean, what was this engineer taking the notes on the back of a napkin? I mean, it was obviously in a file.
Yeah.
It was obviously there. So no matter which engineer changes, the design and all the details, requirements should be there in whatever file it is that they're using to construct that. These are just shortcuts. I think these are just excuses that they're offering. It doesn't make sense. For too long, civil works have prioritized what the contractor is comfortable with, or cost cutting on those guys. So yeah, anyways, but this announcement, I think, will be worthwhile if it leads to prioritizing doctors. I think all of us joke about or criticize the quality of doctors and specialists available in Sikkim. I mean, that's an easy thing to do. No one, I think, gives them enough credit about them working despite a bureaucracy above them which just doesn't seem to get it.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, if that is the direction it's going on, it's wonderful. Otherwise, it's just bhashan diya, tali bajaya, and you just need one more signature before you can go to Delhi and get treated.
Yeah.
Because truly speaking, if anyone was given a choice, right, that they can get treated at STNM or even a nursing home in Siliguri, what choice do you think they'll make? So I think now that Sikkim has made such a big splash about its new hospital, which is a 1,000-bedded hospital, what Sikkim should look at is making STNM the preferred choice for treatment.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what you should be looking at.
Which is not at all what has happened. Now, after the shifting, it's become, I have heard that people are preferring Manipal because they are, it is
more convenient?
kind of, because it's, I think, difficult to find taxis to go there. It was difficult or whatever to find taxis to go there and all that. And the second reason being that they don't trust the STNM anymore, because there are so many complaints from how to find the treatment room or find a doctor or whatever.
Complex.
It's such a big complex to there are no equipments or whatever. You don't know what's happening. So that trust thing factor has it's, I don't know, it's a big deal, right? If you don't trust a hospital or something.
Of course.
And which was not the case before. Okay. Not so much. I think people
Choices were limited
did not
earlier. options.
No, but then that should be something that needs. I mean, should
Yes.
be addressed, right? Like
Of
as a
course.
case, like we need to like we need to like work on it and like I don't know. I don't hear anything. I just hear people talking about it, and we can't even do. We have been how do you say it? We've not been able to do any serious report on the STNM, new STNM also because of the fact that we don't get people to come on records. Nobody is going to come on record, but you hear complaints everywhere. Even from the staff, you hear complaints, but they will obviously not come on record
Yeah.
and those kind of things. So I was also thinking that STNM could be a topic we could discuss in some
Yes,
other
I think we
podcast.
should do that. I think we should do that. I think it's important because look at the irony of things. I mean, Sikkim has 2 referral hospitals now. One has it in its name, Central Referral Hospital. That's Manipal. And STNM Hospital has always been the final referral hospital for the state. So you've got 2 referral hospitals, and still, so many patients prefer to get referred out of Sikkim. I mean, that is to even a Siliguri is a subdivision.
No, it's very scary. No, I'm like, I don't know. Like, if personally, I would trust, I would like to, I would trust STNM and not Manipal, let's say, STNM doctors more. I don't know why. Because Siliguri
That's
is
your local
thing. No, no.
preference.
It's like, so, okay, I'll tell you
Yeah.
the reason.
They're around for you to kind of find them. कि क्या
हाँ.
गड़बड़ कर दिया
So
text?
if they do some garbage, it's not like, they'll have to be answerable, right? They're here. So in Siliguri, they're like, you don't know who's a quack and who's a real doctor.
Yes.
कैसे पता चलेगा ना?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, but at the same time, the facilities are like miserable here. Like this new STNM also, yeah. Equipments hai, but like either some people don't know where the equipment is. It's
Wow,
on record,
it's
but they
that
don't
big.
know where the equipment is.
They are treasure hunt every time they want to
Or
find
they
something.
don't know how to use it, or they don't have anybody to operate it. It's like this.
Yeah.
It's either of these.
Oh, human
things.
resource planning again Sikkim has
That's-
always been challenged in that aspect as well. But I mean, since we're talking hospitals here, I think it's important also for them to figure out how many people are required to efficiently run a 1,000-bedded hospital. How many nurses, how many doctors, how many specialists, and forget about extra specialists. I mean, the existing wings that you have in the hospital. What is the ideal strength of doctors and nurses required, and then find out, is that being met?
I don't think Sikkim has the manpower as of now to run a 1,000-bedded hospital. But बना दिया है.
This hospital took 6-7 years to make. Someone could have been put into a course and they would have been experienced practitioners of that particular stream of medicine by now. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That is the planning that is required, and that is what you expect your big IAS officers to deliver, right? काम बिगाड़ना तो मैं भी सकता हूँ. Like, why do I need someone with like this whole training to be there to spoil things, right? You could have picked up anyone from the street to just a mess of things have to be. Anyways, I think we've ranted enough.
No,
about that.
so okay, we'll move on.
No, you can rant some more if you've got something to add.
I forgot also. What was I about to? No, okay. My thing was कि अब बना दिया है, ठीक है, but it's not necessary to make it functional.
All 1,000 beds.
All 1,000 beds. Start with
And
200 or 400. Or
we are actually taking the government's word on this. That is 1,000 bedded. No one has actually got and counted whether they actually. Well, that's a
No,
joke.
because
I'm sure they have 1,000 beds.
No, it's really bad, the situation.
And the
in
beds that are
STNM.
extra, they can give it tourist season में इतना load of beds. Just give it.
Don't
for
make
tourists.
fun of this. This is very sad. Anyway, let's move on to holiday. Not really holiday. Sorry. So, let's move on to the Students' Rights Day that was recently observed on 14th July
Yeah. To mark the
And-
anniversary
of the student uprising in quotes
Yeah.
that happened how many years ago?
It was in 2014, I think. Before the election. It was an election year. So that's about 5 years back, 6. 5 years.
So the new government has declared that day Students' Rights Day.
Yeah.
It's the first time that it was being observed or celebrated here in Sikkim.
Yes.
So on that day, 5 years ago,
The
jokes aside.
smell of
Tear
tear gas
gas.
wafted into our then office.
Yeah. So no, that day, actually, what had been happening was the college students had been protesting against the fee structure, right?
The
The
fee
fee
hike.
hike.
Yeah, there was Sikkim subjects free, and the other students who didn't have COI had to pay much higher, and there was a whole complicated list of
Yeah, so basically to
issues.
do something around the
Fee
fees,
structure, yes.
and it had been happening for some days or a
Yes.
week or so.
Days.
Yeah, and then on that particular day they had staged a protest in
Yeah.
front of the college,
Mm.
which went out of
And I think
hand.
the police overreacted that day
Yeah.
because the kids had gone up to the HRD
Hmm.
where they met with typical babus
Hmm.
who would not talk to them
Mm.
properly. So they were being very dismissive and all that. So
Mm.
students came back with a very disturbed mindset,
Yeah.
and they reached the college gates and they just sat down on the road. And I think by then the police people who were escorting them had also kind of been really tired,
Hmm.
and they just lathi charged the kids. And that's when all hell broke loose. The kids fought back. They battered the cops with stones and stuff. The Sikkim Government College at Tadung became this
War zone.
war zone, really. There was construction happening, so there was a lot of stones lying around. And
Yeah.
the kids, the students stood their ground. And and it played out for a few days, right? There was
Yeah.
tear gassing, there were rumors,
Curfew.
there were disturbing rumors
Yeah.
that people were spreading about some kid who passed away in the hospital because of the beating, some baby who
Baby.
suffocated to death because of the tear
Tear gas,
gas,
yeah.
all of which was lies. So many other groups just jumped into the whole protest.
Mm.
I'm not saying that we should not support people's right to protest, but it was quite obvious that a lot of groups that had been coming down and instigating the mobs were just ranting, railing against the government, really. This just happened to be the issue.
Please excuse the noise. I think the people are going crazy outside. What's wrong with these people?
They're just excited.
Anyway, the other staff of Summit Times is going crazy outside. So please excuse the whatever noise that you hear.
Mm.
Please go on.
So that was it. And so the government observed this day as Students' Rights Day. Their MLAs were quite involved at that protest. I mean, to their credit, they did not openly try to instigate anything. They went down, spoke to the kids in front of us, remember? Their MLAs went down, tried to speak to the kids to calm down and all that. But of course, by then things had just...
Yeah, then there were other players who had
that was
infiltrated.
disturbing, right? There was this whole lot of other groups that were just screaming conspiracy theories and fake news and everything else. And so eventually it took a lathi charge that went on from Tadung right up to town. I think the cops kind of just beat down the protest out of the people. Tear gas shellings at bypass and up Kirali and all that stuff. And it ended with that. Like with most protests in Sikkim, it ended not on a high, but with the whole issue getting just kind of disintegrated into 100 different things.
Yeah.
The students did not really get anything. They would talk about the uniform prices also, I think, at that time, the uniforms they have to wear. But the fact that they now earmarked a day should get people to talk more seriously about student issues. And if I can be allowed to rant some more about this, I think they're still obsessed over which students qualify to get free laptops and things like that. Whereas I think
It's frustrating.
this,
The kind of things that they
think is
obsess
important.
obsess about, and anyway, continue.
So I think what they should really be looking at is asking the kids what do they require in their colleges by way of infrastructure. I think that day, I don't know, I was not there. I don't think the reportage was very detailed in that stuff, a lot of political talk or whatever. But someone should go and check whether the colleges have libraries that deserve to be called libraries and not youth magazine reading rooms. Whether they have internet facilities. I mean, I think by now it should be standard issue, right, for any college campus to have free Wi-Fi. What kind of sports infrastructure do the colleges have? I mean, just making them a basketball court and giving them a football ground is not enough. Do they have good teams? I've never heard of a good college team in anything, in any sport, any discipline. We've not heard of sportsmen in college. I mean,
is there an inter-college, like Sikkim University के अंदर जो आता है colleges, do they have an inter-college
I've not heard of it.
Tournaments,
Well, the
because
student festival mein they'll probably do
no,
something.
because it's a big thing outside, right? In
Yeah.
other states, you
Yeah.
have like college level, university level playing.
I mean, you were a
any,
sports quota
yeah,
student.
yeah.
You know what it
I
feels like.
know. University level tournament or ranking hota hai, and then to get to that level, then that's like a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't hear of anything like that here. I don't know.
And for all the noise we make about being a sporting culture,
Mm.
the hills, like kids are like more into sports. I don't know. Or maybe they think that
Hopefully.
those who make it to college,
They
like
don't-
the real sports persons do not really make it to college. I don't know. But I think that's offensive. This, the way, and I think it goes down to how they infantilize the kids by putting them into uniforms.
Yeah.
That has to be done away with. And on Students' Rights Day, they should have got the right to wear whatever they want.
Mm.
But they'll all be there in their uniforms.
I
Those,
just don't. I mean,
How
like,
they
there are
accept it.
people who say that it is better
no,
because
but that is like, I think 5 decades old argument that give them a uniform so that this class differentiation doesn't surface. I don't think so. That still comes up in this kid who rides into school on a mobike or a car, right? So uniform is not. I mean, you are constricting them. You are making them into your darbans and people who do your bidding later in life because you've told them now you got to go to 3 years of college wearing this dress. It's anyways, I've got serious problems with that.
Yeah.
But because in this you're sidestepping the real issues.
वही तो. Like okay, fine, you do your uniform shit also. Then apart from that, you do some other great, like, pata nahi, some facilities
Like,
for the
there
students.
is not one big inter-college fest that gets kids excited on a regular basis, right? Every year when you join as a fresher, there should be this excitement. Okay, this fest happens in October or whatever, and like I have to see what discipline I can get into.
Yeah. So
This tournament, sports, debates, quiz. I mean, do stupid stuff like that also. I don't care. But you've taken away the whole college life
yeah, I know.
aspect out of it, and then you. Yeah, that should be a basic student right.
They
that
should
be
strive
addressed.
to. I remember when I was in college, like the IIT Fest was like a big thing. Like a big, like, from like all the colleges in Delhi and from the other states also used to come and participate, right? It was a big, like, I don't know, like bigger than the tourism festival here. And then you also had the Bits Pilani festival, which is also quite reputed and big. Like our college also had a festival which was not that, obviously it was like a normal, but then you aspire to make the fest that
Yes.
big, right?
Yes.
And then the students get involved, no, getting sponsorships, organizing, event management, this and that.
Yeah.
Kitna
They
maza
grow
and
up.
kitna learning
Yeah, I know.
happening
But
there.
that is not what they're looking at, no? Like, if we go and ask some people, they'll say, the students should do it, they should take the initiative. Boss, you don't allow them to think.
Yeah.
By putting them in uniforms, you've told them you cannot think for yourself. If you can't decide what you want to wear, how am I going to give an event in your hands or give it the scale or that? I mean, it requires some backing and support. And yeah, I mean, those are the issues I would have liked to hear
Yeah.
on a day like
The
Students'
teachers
Rights
and the
Day.
administration, and they are just there to support, right?
Yeah.
It's the students who have to be allowed to do.
Yes.
Take
But
up.
we've turned it around. We've made these teachers and administration the people who dictate. And their imagination, we know, is so limited. Yeah.
Anyway, so enough, so much ranting here. We're almost half an hour into it. So we'll just end with the last announcement, today's announcement, no?
Yeah, we're recording this on the second death anniversary of the former Chief Minister of Sikkim, NB Bhandari.
And his birthday on 5th October has been declared a holiday by the state government.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, I mean, straight off, I have a problem with declaring holidays on birthdays. And not because I don't think people deserve to be remembered, but I think that you should earmark that day for a special celebration, right? If you think a person deserves to be remembered, then the schools and colleges should be open on that day, and that day should be dedicated on learning more about that person.
Yeah.
I think that is how you celebrate keep alive someone's memory. But since that is not the culture of our country, I hope that it does not collapse into the traditional ways of celebrating, people, which is making a hagiography of things, right? Because that takes away the person's real identity. I mean, a person is a complex being. So this should encourage people to look more into the kind of struggles, the kind of compromises, the kind of difficulties, the political challenges that the person that Narbhadar Bhandari went through, and how he kind of moved through those times. He was the Chief Minister of Sikkim during a very important phase. Sikkim had just about gotten democracy, and he was there for a while. Not his entire term in office was the brightest in people's memories. I think those aspects should also be remembered, right? Because that gives you a complete picture. I hope it does not just become this. Because when you just celebrate the good things of a person, it becomes, for me, it becomes this very superficial kind of remembrance of a life that had been lived. If this can lead to a deeper understanding of the complexities, so wonderful that would be. But I don't think that's happening.
All right. Okay, so for today, we'll end this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And please like and share our podcast on Facebook, Instagram, not Instagram. You don't
Like
you know.
every
Okay, Facebook.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Give it a
also good.
thumbs up.
Give it a like.
Give it a thumbs up.
Just a small note before we leave. The pediatrics ward in STNM, they are in need of drawing books, color pencils, crayons, activity
Toys.
books, toys.
Anything,
Yeah,
why not?
anything, something, any old toys and
New also. You can buy new ones and
yes,
give.
okay. Old also, new also. Whatever you can contribute. Just because there are certain, I think there are some patients, kids who have been there for a while and who will be there for a while, and they get very bored, and so they could do with some entertainment. So
Yes.
just
And it would be a good idea if some of you, if you can't donate books and crayons and toys, new or old, but can tell very good stories, to maybe go there, talk to the doctors, and ask if they can spend some time with the kids to tell them stories.
Yeah.
Teach them crafts. I mean, just get involved, yeah.
All right, on. Okay, so yeah, please, you can just walk into STNM hospital to the pediatrics ward and ask anyone there. All right, adios.